Yes, it is here in my hot little hands. Treat Yourself Healthy, my 6th cookbook and my 4th healthy cookbook, where I focus on gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free and dairy-optional recipes, is in my hands, and I am so excited because this means that now we get to do these really cool classes. I call them Cook the Book, where we literally will cook straight from the book, and this book has 200 recipes in it. It is my biggest work yet, and there are recipes that are guilt-free, snacks, treats, sweets, crackers, breads, you name it. When it comes to anything that involves a little bit of a treat or a bit of baking, it is in my cookbook. And today, the recipe that we are going to be doing is on page 21, and we are going to be cooking, so it's right at the front. In the very first chapter, I'm going to show you guys. The very first chapter, I call it the Nostalgic Kitchen, and this is where it's recipes that kind of remind me of home. So today we're going to be cooking Kingston Biscuits, my homemade Kingston Biscuits, which are an oat style cookie or oatmeal cookie, and we're going to sandwich the 2 cookies together with a really fabulous chocolate filling or chocolate ganache. So the recipe, of course, is sugar-free, it is dairy-free, it is also free from gluten, and it's vegan friendly as well. So it's a really fabulous recipe, and I'm excited that I now get to show you guys what this book looks like. And of course, we'll be doing lots and lots more Cook the Book classes in the coming weeks, as I literally will cook my way through this book. And the idea about Cook the Book classes is to give you guys as much skill level as possible when it comes to cooking without gluten, without sugar, and a lot of without dairy as well. So pretty excited. I reckon, shall we just get into the recipe? Because as I was saying, Treat Yourself Healthy is now available. Apparently, breaking news, I was told that the shipment for Treat Yourself Healthy, because all the books are in a container at the moment, that lands today here in Sydney, which means in the next week or week and a half, if you've pre-ordered your copy of Treat Yourself Healthy, you will then have that delivered to you. It should be leaving our warehouse in a week and a half. So pretty excited about that sort of stuff, and I reckon you are too. So let's get into the recipe. I'm going to put the book here so we can all see it. Put the book there, and we are going to be cooking today these Kingston Biscuits. So firstly, let's think about making the biscuit itself. Pretty simple to do. So I'm going to be working straight into my bowl, putting my bowl on the scales, which just makes life so much easier when you do it that way, so much easier. And what I thought I'd start off with, as I said, is the dry ingredients into the bowl. So in here I have my oats. I have 100 grams of oats, and which is 3.5 ounces. And now when it comes to oats, some people say, but they've got gluten in it. Bridget, you said this was a gluten-free recipe. So in essence, oats don't have any gluten. But if they are processed in the same factory or same place that processes other foods that do have gluten, there may be a risk of cross-contamination. So in essence, oats don't have gluten, which is really good to know. But if you are celiac, so you have extreme gluten intolerance, you want to go for a gluten-free oat that has been produced in a factory that does not produce other gluten products. But for the rest of us, or for the majority of us, which have slight gluten intolerances, I have quite a severe one, I can have oats no problem whatsoever. So 100 grams of oats go in there. We're also going to be putting in some of our zero as sugar, and that's our pure erythritol. That is going to go in at 50 grams, which is 1.7 ounces. Goes in. There we go. Of course, our zero has 0 calories, 0 glycemic index, and 0 laxative effect, and you can get it from our store, bridgets.shop. We're also going to be adding in some coconut flour. Be really careful when you're working with coconut flour, because it can be quite drying to the mixture, so you want to get the measurements really spot on. So 50 grams of coconut flour, and when it comes to coconut flour, as I was saying, really it does dry out the mixture if you add too much. So go with your scales 100%. So 50 grams, 1.7 ounces of coconut flour. Now I'm also going to be adding in a little bit of gluten-free flour. Now this is my own special gluten-free flour blend. I make this myself. It's got almonds, there's a bit of tapioca and a little bit of arrowroot in there and a little bit of coconut flour. So this is way better than the stuff you buy from the store, because that stuff normally just has rice flour in it. This is a way better, and guess what? The recipe, it's in the book, Treat Yourself Healthy. It's on page 317. You get my gluten-free flour blend that you can use. And for this, we're going to be adding in 50 grams of our gluten-free flour blend is going into there. Make sure we are measuring. It's really nice that you get to make your own gluten-free flour blend rather than relying on the store-bought ones, which can be quite high and spike your blood glucose and your sugars and all that sort of stuff. So that goes in there. The next thing that we're going to be thinking about is our unsweetened coconut, and that's once again 50 grams of unsweetened coconut. I'm using coconut shreds, but you feel free to also use desiccated coconut if you want to. So 50 grams. I quite like the large shreds. Just make sure, of course, that your coconut is sugar-free. Sometimes I don't know why, food manufacturers add sugar to coconut, and I think it's nuts. So just make sure it's sugar-free. Check the label, of course. So give that all a bit of a mix through, just like that. All right, perfect. Let's put that off to the side. Let's think about our wet ingredients now. So in my bowl here, I have 90 mils, which is 3 ounces of melted coconut oil. So it's melted, but it's not hot. So I haven't let it boil. I've literally just very gently melted it. So that's the first thing. And then in my pot here, I've actually just got boiling water. So I'm just going to add a tablespoon of boiling water into my little cup here, because I want to add in some baking soda. Now the baking soda is, or bicarbonate soda is here. I'm adding in 1 teaspoon into my water to dissolve. The baking soda is added here to help to give the cookies or the biscuits a really good colour. So the reason why we dissolve it in water is just to make sure it's really well dissolved, so that you don't taste baking soda, bits of baking soda through your baking. So that is nice. I'm going to add that into my coconut oil. And the last ingredient is our sweet as fiber syrup, which you guys know is a prebiotic dietary fiber. So you just remember, this is a fiber, so it can cause a bit of gas if you eat too many. That's why these treats are perfect. You're not supposed to sit there and eat the whole lot. You are ideally having, every now and then, or a couple of biscuits at a time, and it shouldn't affect you. So the sweet as fiber syrup is going in. We want to add 3 tablespoons of that, goes into there. And then we bring back our dry ingredients, and then it's just a matter of mixing or combining the two together. So making sure that's well mixed through. Fiber syrup's quite thick, so just give it a bit of a mix. And then in it goes into our dry ingredients. You don't need any, which is really cool, you don't need any type of equipment for this, apart from your oven, of course, to cook. You just need a bowl and a spoon. So give it a good mix together. And now this is, depending on the type of oats you use, will determine whether you may need to add a little bit of water to this mixture just to bring it all together, to hold it together really nicely. Because what you want to do is you want to do a bit of a test. You want to do a bit of a test run here. So picking up a little bit of a mixture, you squeeze it between your hands, and you want it to hold together, which it's, as you can see, it's not really holding together for me. So it's crumbling. So because of that, I'm actually going to be adding in, at a tablespoon at a time, just a little bit of water. This is going to help that mixture to come together nicely. So a little bit of water goes in there. Back in there with your hands, blending it through, just seeing what's happening. And giving it that bit of a squeeze as well is really important, because that is your indication of whether the mixture is at a good consistency or whether the mixture needs a little bit more water. Mine feels like it does. So I'm going to add another tablespoon of water. I can only get half tablespoon at a time. That's why I'm going twice, just in case you're wondering. But definitely, tablespoon at a time, squish it between your fingers, and already I'm really feeling that mixture coming together really, really nicely now. So that is looking all very, very good. So, scrape off, don't waste any. it is now time to roll them into balls. So ideally, you're doing this, I'm going to bring back my scales. You're doing this onto your scales. Now the reason why you're doing this onto your scales is because you want the biscuits to all be the same size, because remember, we're taking 2 biscuits and then we're sandwiching the filling in the middle. So to make sure that you get that correct in terms of the size of cookies, that they're all looking quite uniform, the best thing to do is to weigh it off. You're looking between 25 to 30 grams, so just under an ounce up to an ounce worth of ball. That was exactly, and I'm not kidding, 25 grams. Pretty impressive. So roll these all into balls. A little bit heavy, that was about 30. Yeah, here we go. Now once the rolling is all done, you should get about sort of anywhere from 9 to 12 complete cookies out of this. So, once they're filled, it all depends on the accuracy of your rolling and measuring. So once they're all rolled nicely, I'm just going to put them off to the side here, and they're lovely and even. You want to take yourself up a baking sheet. Now I have lined my baking sheet with a silicone baking mat, as you can see, so that is going to prevent my cookies from sticking to the roasting tray, which is great. And then you just want to space them onto the tray, and you want to leave just a little bit of room. And I remember the first time I ever learnt to put cookies onto a tray and to leave some space by putting them into the gaps. I'm sure there's a lot of you there who know exactly what I'm talking about. So space them well onto your tray, and then just using your hand, just give them a little bit of a squish. You could use a spatula if you want to, but this is fine. Just squish the tops gently, and ideally you're not seeing too much cracking around the side, because then you know that the cookies aren't too dry. They've still got a nice moisture about them, which is really important. So give them a bit of a squish down. And then these are going to go over to your oven. You've got your oven preset at 320 degrees Celsius, which is, degrees Fahrenheit, which is 170 degrees Celsius. And you're going to pop these into the oven and set your timer for 7 minutes. That's the initial bake. We're going to bake them twice, but the first baking time is 7 minutes. So here we go. So after 7 minutes of initial baking, first bake, we get something looking a little bit like this. So not overly coloured, kind of a little bit bland and blonde looking. So what we want to do now is, taking up a spatula, you just want to gently squish the biscuits down even further, because you want them to be a little bit flatter, because they're going to be a lot easier to put into your mouth once they are filled, which is super important, but also, just to help with the baking and make sure that they're baking really evenly. So give them a good squish, just like that. Not too much pressure, by the way, just a nice little gentle squish, and then back to the oven you go. This next bake could take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. Just keep an eye on it. They will start to go lovely and golden. That's when you know that they are done. Here we go. Okay, time is up. The baking is done. Now it's worthwhile noting here, firstly, this really gorgeous, very consistent colour that we have over the top of our biscuits, which is fabulous, and this is what you're looking for. But the time that they spend in the oven is really quite dependent on your oven. So all ovens are different. It's worthwhile noting that all ovens are different. So for some of us, our ovens may run quite hot and we don't need as much time. For others, you may find that your oven runs a little bit cooler, so you may need to increase the time. So it's worth remembering that the times or the times in the cookbook, whether they be for baking or for cooking, they are a guide. And it's a really good idea for you to use visuals as well as timing to know when your product is ready. So when it comes to these cookies or these biscuits, you know they're ready when you're really looking at this very generous overall looking color. They're golden, They look fabulous, you know they're ready. So now you just want to leave them to cool on a wire rack on the tray for about 10 minutes. You don't want to pick them up too soon because they may break on you. So they need about 10 minutes of cooling time. And once they are cool, then we can put them onto the wire rack to cool down completely. So while the cookies or the biscuits are cooling down, it's a good time to make the filling. Now the filling we are making is a chocolate ganache. And so of course we need some chocolate. And the chocolate that I'm using today is a dark chocolate for a start, because I love dark chocolate, and dark chocolate is just so good for us. There is no sugar in here and there is no dairy in here either. So this is actually the chocolate that I have here is a vegan chocolate. And if you're wondering where you get a dairy-free, sugar-free chocolate from, I bought mine online. So I suggest you do a bit of a Google search for, vegan chocolate or dark vegan chocolate near you, and you'll be able to get some with no sugar and no dairy, and this still tastes absolutely fabulous. Now I am using what is known as chocolate sand. Can you see that is all kind of broken up, or chocolate kibble, but you might find that your chocolate is chocolate buttons or chocolate pieces. Any of those work well. Now you need about 100 grams of your chocolate in here, which is 3.5 ounces. In my little pot I have just a little bit of water, not too much, and I'm going to bring that water to a bit of a simmer. You don't want it to boil, you just want it to simmer. And what we're creating here is known as a bain-marie. So basically what that is French for water bath. So we're creating a water bath, because one thing about chocolate is that if I was to put this straight into the pot and try and melt it, chances are it would burn because it's just too much heat. Chocolate needs a very, very gentle heat to melt. Hence why when you put chocolate into your mouth, which by the way is the perfect temperature for melting chocolate, which is around about blood temperature, 37 odd degrees Celsius, that's why chocolate melts in your mouth. And that's why I think people just love it, because that ability to just suck on chocolate and it melts incredibly well. So put your chocolate into either a metal bowl, which is a great conductor of heat, or into a glass bowl, and just put it over top of the pot. And then what you see happening here, which is the main thing, is that the base of my bowl is not coming into contact with the water. That will ensure that we're using steam to melt the chocolate and not direct heat. Now yes, you could do this in the microwave as well, and the best way to do it in the microwave is to do it in little increments, so in bursts. So you put it on medium temperature or medium heat, sorry, it's power, isn't it? Medium power in the microwave, and then you allow it to just 10 seconds at a time, and between each time you just want to go around and you want to give it a bit of a stir. So that's the ideal way to do it. But of course, if you want to do it the way a chef would do it, or the way it's done professionally in kitchens, is that we do it over this bain-marie or this water bath. So give it some time, keep an eye on it of course, and I'm using a spatula so I can just go around the edges of my bowl, and just because already we've got melting happening. Doesn't take long, and I've got this on a really low temperature too, by the way, but I will keep an eye on it because I don't want it to bubble up to the base of my bowl there. So the chocolate's really nicely melted now together. I'm actually going to just turn this off. We don't need it to be on anymore. And what we're going to do, just to finish this off, is we're going to add a little bit of coconut milk here. So this is just enough to create what is known as a ganache. Now once you add the coconut milk, it will get quite matte-like. I actually do it off the heat here. It will actually get quite matte-like. And you need, I always start off with about 30 mils, which is 1 ounce. Give it a bit of a stir together. And in total, you're going to be adding about 60 mils. About 1 ounce, 2 ounces in total of our coconut milk goes in there. And that is going to create our wonderful ganache, which is now going to just cool a little bit along with the cookies or the biscuits. And that is our filling done. How easy is that? That's pretty good, huh? Now that everything is in place, our filling is just cooled down a little bit, our cookies are cool enough to handle, it's time to fill them up and go from oat cookies and ganache to Kingston biscuits. So taking up a spoon, it's usually the best way to do it, And just handling your cool cookie, you want about a teaspoon of the filling into your cookie, or maybe a bit more if you want to. I'll leave that up to you. And then just very delicately squish them together. Look at that. Oh, isn't that amazing? So let's make a few. Wonderful. Really happy with how these have turned out. That's so good. And they are so tasty. Now these biscuits, Kingston Biscuits, will last 4 to 5 days. You can store them in the fridge, which will help them to last longer, in a sealed container. But when you're ready to eat them, I do suggest that you leave them out at room temperature. That is just going to help when you bite into them, because they're definitely really nice when they're just over room temperature. So I like to get them out maybe 10 minutes beforehand, and eat them then. Okay, so here we have it. I am, as I was saying, really, really excited to be able to share this with you guys. These wonderful Kingston biscuits filled with that lovely chocolate ganache, and of course they are part of the 200 recipes that you will find in Treat Yourself Healthy. You can purchase your copy now. Go to treatyourselfhealthy.net. This is my latest, greatest cookbook, and it's definitely my greatest work. It has been 12 months in the making. Look at that. It is a beautiful, beautiful piece of work. I can't wait to get this to you guys. Like, in all seriousness, I'm very excited. And I'm just going to check the picture to make sure that we did it justice. So page 21 is the Kingston Biscuits. Where are we? Right next to the sticky date pudding. Just saying. I think we did them justice, don't you reckon? I reckon we did too. So yes, you can get your copy of Treat Yourself Healthy from treatyourselfhealthy.net. If you purchase it in the next couple of days, we still have our pre-sale purchase special available, plus we have Afterpay available. You can get your copy now, and I can't wait till you get it into your home and you get to create all these amazing, amazing dishes. Thank you so much for joining me on our first official episode of Cook the Book. Don't forget, you can join me on Facebook, you can follow me on YouTube, you can of course go over to our recipe sharing website, which is modkai.com. Join me over there as well, where you can get all the recipes, plus of course get your hands on Treat Yourself Healthy now. It is available. I can't wait till you get it. Take care, guys. I look forward to seeing you back here in the kitchen really, really soon. Bye.